The event unfolded just beyond the confines of my backyard. The waning summer sun poured its golden light over our backyard, and I could savor the saltiness of sweat trickling down to my lips. My legs quaked as I clung to the jagged edge of the partially mended fence. His large hands were steady, yet they roamed over me as if he had long anticipated this encounter. I sensed his presence enveloping me from behind, his form assertive and insistent. I did not put up a fight. I was unable to. My white sundress was bunched up around my waist, with my panties dangling from one ankle. He groaned in my ear, a sound rich and yearning, and I whispered his name as if it were a secret laid bare. I experienced each movement of him within me, throbbing, commanding, indelible. As I finally released his tool, my knees gave way beneath me. I had just enacted the most profound betrayal of my existence with my neighbor, Anthony, who is black. And the most troubling aspect was that I craved even more. Before I plunge into this candid and heartfelt confession, I must express my deepest gratitude to all who have subscribed to this channel. Your support sustains this platform's existence. Whether you are a newcomer or have been observing from the sidelines without hitting that subscribe button, your presence is genuinely valued. I eagerly anticipate your click on that subscribe button, for it serves as the vital fuel that drives this narrative engine forward. Kindly share your reflections in the comments section. I have delved into each of them, and your insights influence the narratives we craft next. Allow me to transport you to the moment it all started. Allow me to introduce myself. I am known as Hannah. At 37 years of age, I find myself a devoted housewife residing in a tranquil neighborhood in Texas. My husband, David, is a good man, reliable and predictable. He works as a mortgage advisor and has a fondness for spreadsheets that seems to surpass the affection he has shown me in the past 3 months. Then there is Anthony, standing tall at 6 feet 3 inches, with dark chocolate skin and muscles that appear to strain against the fabric of every shirt he dons. He resides just 2 houses away, accompanied by his teenage daughter. Years ago, his wife departed from his life. I have always perceived him as that striking, reserved neighbor who tended to his lawn without a shirt, occasionally offering a wave as I nurtured my flowers. The fence had been crumbling for weeks. David repeatedly promised to address the issue, yet the man scarcely found a moment for dinner, much less for any handyman tasks. On a Friday morning, as I savored a glass of wine on the back porch, I caught sight of Anthony approaching, clad in tattered jeans and a sleeveless shirt drenched in sweat. He gestured towards the fence. I observed that this has been deteriorating. Would you like my assistance in resolving this issue? I nodded with an eagerness that perhaps betrayed my thoughts. My voice became trapped in my throat. Indeed, my gratitude is extended. That would be wonderful. That very afternoon, I slipped into a sundress that revealed just the right amount of cleavage and hugged my hips a touch more snugly. I reassured myself that it was merely a means to remain composed amidst the sweltering warmth. Yet, beneath the surface, I understood my desire for recognition. The initial hour of labor felt pure and untainted. I brought him lemonade, chuckled at his dry humor, and observed the way his arms flexed with each strike of the hammer. I found myself lost in thought, gazing intently. He ensnared me as well. "Are you all right, Hannah?" he inquired, dabbing at his forehead. It was a scorching response, I replied, uncertain whether I was referring to the weather or to him. Perhaps a combination of the two. As he rose from his kneeling position, our gazes intertwined. The air was heavy with silence in that moment. Silence envelopes the scene, devoid of birdsong or the whisper of the wind, leaving only the oppressive embrace of heat. His gaze was daring, as if he were peeling away my layers right there in the open, and I allowed him to do so. "I could use a break," he remarked. "Shade lingers behind the fence," I suggested. "No one ever ventures back there." He trailed behind me, concealed by the fence, hidden from the view of the street, the houses, the world. My heart pounded in my chest, echoing like a drum in a marching band. He stood mere inches away, and I could sense the warmth of his breath. He inclined his body gradually. I ought to have retreated. I ought to have declined, yet I chose not to. When our lips met, it was anything but gentle. It was an inferno. My back collided with the fence. His hand glided up my thigh. The fabric of my sundress fluttered upwards. Silence enveloped the moment. He pressed forward, his desire evident as he moved my panties aside. He moved with precision, embodying the essence of a man who understood the art of making a woman yield. I sensed him expand within me, a rich fullness occupying every void I had yet to discover. I clung to the fence, breathless and yearning, as he drove deeper with each powerful thrust. I had never experienced being taken in such a way, not even by my husband. It was unrefined. It was unrefined. It was unrefined. When he finally arrived, I sensed each moment profoundly. I found myself trembling, drenched, and inexplicably content. We stood together, breathless, silent, only the weight of our breaths and the fullness of our hearts. I returned home, my purse heavy with secrets, my thighs slick with the weight of betrayal. David returned home that evening, pressed a kiss to my cheek, and expressed his gratitude for nudging Anthony about the fence. I offered a smile and a nod, feigning that all was well. Yet it was not merely a fleeting thought. Within the depths of my being, Anthony lingered, and the desire to experience him once more pulsed through me. Sleep eluded me that night. With each closure of my eyes, the fence pressed into my back, and the haunting moan echoed in my ears. I released a sound as Anthony filled me, the weight of guilt lingering heavily on my tongue. My thighs ached, not merely from our activities, but from the intensity of my desire. And even more troubling, how deeply I craved for more. I reclined beside my husband, David. As was customary, his back faced me. He drifted off to sleep soon after dinner, too weary to realize how much time I had spent in the bathroom. I lingered for more than half an hour, my legs quaking, as I scrubbed my skin until it was raw beneath the relentless cascade of water, yearning to erase the haunting memory, yet nothing could cleanse me of Anthony. The following morning unfolded in a hush, an unsettling stillness enveloping the world. David departed for work at dawn, bestowing a gentle kiss upon my forehead. I feigned slumber. It was simpler than pretending while my eyes remained wide awake. The moment the door clicked closed behind him, I hurried to the mirror. I gazed upon my reflection, bare, blushing, still bearing the traces of what had been. Faint bruises adorned my hips, remnants of Anthony's firm embrace. The remnants of sweat and sun lingered on my neck, mingling with a sense of shame. I brewed a cup of coffee, yet its flavor eluded my senses. I tidied the kitchen on 2 separate occasions. I attempted to immerse myself in a magazine, yet each word faded into a haze, overshadowed by a singular, persistent thought. What if it occurs once more? I convinced myself it was merely a fleeting error, yet my body had a different story to tell. As the clock approached noon, I found myself gazing out the window, observing Anthony as he diligently raked leaves by his porch. Once more without a shirt, his skin shimmered in the sunlight, reminiscent of bronze coated in oil. He discovered me in the act of watching. I kept my gaze steady, and then a smile graced his lips. That smile held a meaning I was all too familiar with. Later that afternoon, I ventured outside, feigning the need to inspect the repaired fence. He stood there, feigning an examination of the wood. "You overlooked a spot," I remarked, striving to maintain a calm tone. He turned, gazed at me with eyes that laid me open. "No," he stated, "I did not overlook anything. Yet, perhaps you arrived to discover whether I truly did." A constriction gripped my throat. I yearned to articulate something profound, to feign a sense of mastery, yet in truth I possessed none. He drew nearer, his fingers grazing my elbow, and I nearly fell into him. He inclined closer, his voice a mere murmur. "Would you like to discuss the events of yesterday?" I nodded in silence, our words unspoken. We found ourselves within the confines of his garage. The air was thick with heat, shrouded in darkness, and infused with the pungent sense of oil and wood. With effortless strength, he swept the workbench aside as if it were nothing more than a collection of feathers. I took a seat without needing any instruction. My sundress fluttered once more, as if it held onto the echoes of yesterday's events. He knelt between my legs, and this time he kissed slowly, deeply, as if he sought to savor every nuance of my guilt. As he rose to his feet, I leaned in, unzipped his jeans, and retrieved the very object that had shattered me just the day prior. It was dense, dark, and undeniably potent. I encircled it with my hand, lowering my mouth deliberately as I observed him biting his lip. I exhausted him, his fingers gripping my hair tightly as he gasped my name, as if it were the sole word etched in his memory. and when he arrived, I consumed it entirely. The shame resurfaced the moment I wiped my lips and rose to my feet. "Hannah," he murmured, his breath coming in quick gasps. "What are we embarking on?" I was unable to respond. I kissed him briefly and then departed. That evening, David returned home ahead of schedule. He arrived with flowers, tulips, my favorite choice. Guilt struck me with the force of a heavy weight, pressing down on my chest. "I thought we could go out this weekend," he said. "Only we remain. Perhaps reignite a flicker of passion." I smiled, deceived, and assured him that it sounded delightful. As the night deepened, we surrendered to each other in a dance of intimacy. Or at the very least, he made an attempt. He possessed a gentle nature. Excessively soft. He scarcely endured for 5 minutes. He inquired whether I had arrived. I deceived once more, claimed I had, pressed my lips to his, turned away, and wept quietly into my pillow. In that instant, a chilling realization washed over me. I found myself no longer sharing intimate moments with my husband. I found myself drawing comparisons between him and my neighbor, and it was clear that David never stood a chance. The following day, I steered clear of Anthony. I was acutely aware that if our paths crossed once more, I would succumb. I dedicated my time to household tasks, meticulously folding laundry that had already been neatly arranged, and ironing garments that were perfectly fine as they were. I scrubbed the kitchen floor until my knees ached, yet the more I fought against it, the stronger the pull grew. Just when I believed I had weathered the day, a soft rap echoed against the back door. I opened it, and there he stood, bare-chested once more. "You left this on my porch," he remarked, lifting a delicate pink lace thong for emphasis. I had not even come to the awareness that it was gone. He entered without so much as a pause for an invitation. He shut the door firmly behind him. I stepped back, yet my body refused to comply. As his lips met mine, I felt myself dissolve once more. Following that, it became more than merely an error. It unfolded as a pattern, a hidden truth, a life lived in the shadows. With each passing day, I found myself descending further into the depths of the affair. My bed was once David's, yet my body, my yearning, was claimed by Anthony, and for every moment I spent enveloped in his embrace, the guilt congealed in my chest like a heavy sludge. I was aware that it was merely a question of time before the truth would come crashing down, obliterating everything in its path. For secrets of this nature, they never remain hidden for long. On a Tuesday morning, the world was still, unremarkable, the sort of day that holds no promise of calamity lurking in its shadows. David had pressed his lips to mine in farewell, just as he always did. Yet this time there was an unmistakable shift, as if he possessed a hidden knowledge. Perhaps it was merely paranoia that gripped me, for by that time, I had fully embraced the art of deception. Each smile was a mere facade. Each dinner I presented, every tender kiss goodnight, every whispered moan in the dark, all of it was shrouded in deception. My true passion resided just beyond the fence, coursing through my veins and saturating my undergarments. Each time I caught sight of Anthony in the open air, I reassured myself it was merely physical, that it held no significance, that my heart still belonged to my husband. Yet, that was the most egregious falsehood of them all. It was approximately midday when I detected the gentle rap on the kitchen door. The knock that had grown all too recognizable. The rap that stirred every fiber of my being. I swung the door open to reveal Anthony standing on the threshold. His expression was devoid of smiles or playful jests, marked instead by a solemn demeanor. "We must have a conversation," he stated. I moved to the side. He entered and positioned himself by the sink, his hands rubbing together as if anxiety coursed through him. I had never perceived him in such a manner. "I can no longer continue down this path. Hannah," he said, "you are married. This is incorrect. I ought to have nodded. I ought to have consented. I ought to have brought it to a close at that very moment. Yet, I drew nearer and murmured softly, 'So why does it feel so right?' He seized me and pressed his lips against mine with a fervor that suggested he was wrestling with his own desires. My back collided forcefully with the refrigerator. My fingers clawed at his belt. I gasped as he entered me. Profound, unrefined, relentless. There in my kitchen on the floor with the curtains drawn wide open. It was the dirtiest, most audacious act we had ever committed, and I relished every moment of it. Ichda's Woods. I reclined on the frigid tile, half-clothed, breathless, my legs quivering beneath me. He hoisted his trousers back into place and declared, "This must be the final time. I truly mean it." Yet I was aware he would return, and I understood that I would welcome him once more. We had crossed the threshold from which there was no turning back. That evening David returned home, his eyes reflecting an unusual intensity. Neither angry nor suspicious, he simply inquired with a chill in his voice, "Was there anything noteworthy that occurred today?" I paused for a moment, then swiftly shook my head. "No, just chores," he replied, his gaze unwavering, still fixed on mine. "Hannah," he uttered with deliberate slowness, "do you recall the security cameras I set up last year when we suspected someone was pilfering our packages?" My heart ceased to beat. I had completely overlooked them, he went on. "Today I reviewed the footage. I merely wished to put them to the test." Stillness. Then he inquired, "Would you mind clarifying why your neighbor spent more than an hour in our kitchen?" I parted my lips, yet silence enveloped me. He rose to his feet and made his way to the living room. Upon his return, a flash drive was clutched in his hand. "I witnessed it all," he declared. "All things." Breath eluded me. My knees gave way beneath me. I sank to the ground, tears streaming down my face. "I apologize," I murmured. "I had no intention of doing so." He interrupted me. "You have done it on multiple occasions. Do not belittle me with apologies." I extended my hand toward him, yet he recoiled. "I seek a divorce." The subsequent days unfolded in a haze. Documents, attorneys, quiet meals, frigid evenings. He took up residence in the guest room. In the end, he ceased all communication with me. Anthony has disappeared. He ceased to visit his porch. The garage remained securely locked. The light within his house faded into darkness. He had obtained his desires and abandoned me amidst the remnants. David has departed from his residence. In an instant, all that I once held dear has slipped away. My union, my self-respect, and the sole man who has ever genuinely cherished me. All due to my inability to resist the allure of the forbidden. For I allowed desire to cloud my judgment. For I have exhausted more than Anthony's instrument. I exhausted the very essence of my existence. Here I find myself solitary in this hushed abode. Each creak in the floorboards echoes the remnants of the love I shattered. Each look at the fence evokes memories of the man who shattered my world and the woman I allowed myself to become. And if I had the chance to return, would I choose to relive it all once more? The most challenging aspect lies here. The answer remains elusive to me.